Protecting a car from noise was not so important a few decades ago, but in modern cars it is approached with the utmost responsibility. The first thing that catches your eye about the Kia Seltos is the plastic. It is quite hard, so its individual elements make very unpleasant sounds when they come into contact. As for the places where noise is concentrated, they are most intense in the front of the car and in the trunk. Depending on the road surface, shaking from the front and rear suspension is transmitted to the cabin, thereby causing friction of individual elements of the dashboard and trunk. Cheap plastic will hold it together not only when driving on uneven road surfaces, but also reacts even to very small potholes. But many car owners of Kia Seltos and even more expensive cars claim that absolutely any car in Russian road conditions sooner or later begins to creak, and they are partly right. Even an ideal Shumka does not allow you to achieve maximum effect if the car almost always drives on bad roads. Therefore, we have to close our eyes to this problem and pretend that it does not exist at all. As Russian drivers say, if you can talk in lower tones in the car, then the noise is considered more than normal. The average fuel consumption of an atmospheric engine is 1.6 liters. Is 8 liters. This is provided that the car is equipped with an automatic transmission. As for the 1.6-liter turbine version, its consumption is slightly less, 6.8 liters. In a mixed cycle. In a 2-liter naturally aspirated engine with an automatic transmission, this figure is 6.8 liters, but the same engine with a CVT and in a twin-axle version already produces 7.3 liters. Of course, it cannot be said that the Kia Seltos is such a power-hungry car, but it is also no different in its economical fuel consumption. The only thing that can please us is the fact that the crossover feels great when driving on 92 gasoline. As for the transmission options, it becomes clear that the steeper it is, the more fuel the car consumes. This applies not only to fuel consumption, but also to the dynamic performance of the vehicle. In simple terms, a manual transmission demonstrates significantly better performance compared to a CVT and an automatic transmission. The suspension layout affects not only the quality of driving, but also the comfort of movement, as well as the noise level in the Kia Seltos cabin. Chassis equipment also affects the pricing of different models. The engineers of the Korean automaker did not rack their brains for long and took the simple route by installing McPherson strut suspension at the front. As for the rear suspension, the car is equipped with either a torsion beam, 2WD, or an independent multi-link, 4WD. There is information that Korean engineers have modernized the suspension, thus adapting it to Russian road and climatic conditions. The following suspension elements have undergone changes: stabilization levers, shock absorbers, silent blocks, front springs. They have become softer compared to those installed on cars for the Korean and European markets. Some Kia Seltos owners claim that the car leans when cornering, which was not observed on older models with the same parameters. There was no smooth ride on uneven surfaces, which should have been ensured by softer springs. But there are also drivers who claim that with the new suspension the car actually behaves better. It is not so hard, but not too soft either, so it is perfect for Russian roads. A suspension that is too stiff sooner or later leads to loosening of certain structural elements, while a soft suspension leads to loss of vehicle control. By and large, the Kia Seltos cannot be called a comfortable car, regardless of how and where it is used. Cheap plastic, sensitive suspension, and other problems do not allow you to experience all the pleasure of driving a crossover. Another weak point of the Kia Seltos is the finishing materials, which applies to both regular and top-end models. All the finishing looks cheap. Only the steering wheel is pleasant, but it's better not to touch the dashboard. For the basic configuration, this is par for the course, but you don't expect to see this in top models. Many people are not satisfied with the design of the doors, as well as the seals, which look very budget-friendly. Thresholds get dirty quickly, so dirty pants for the driver and passengers are common. This problem is not so critical if you buy a cheap version, but for a rich package it is unforgivable. Considering the weaknesses of the Kia Seltos, one cannot fail to mention the CVT on the 2-liter power unit, which has already become a problem for Russian motorists. In Russia, cars with a CVT are not yet often bought, believing that they will last for a maximum of 100,000 kilometers. In the case of an aggressive driving style or in difficult driving conditions, it becomes noticeable that the electronics are trying to protect the gearbox as much as possible. On the one hand, this is good, but crossovers are often bought for traveling over rough terrain, which is already a problem. Kia Seltos and off-road driving are not entirely compatible concepts, but if the car is driven in the city and on high-quality roads, then you can really get some pleasure from driving it. Moreover, the CVT actually saves fuel. Such a box cannot be called bad, but we are only talking about the fact that it can scare away many people from purchasing it. Many forum users tirelessly argue that the car is well equipped for the money. It has adaptive cruise control, is equipped with a lane-keeping system, seat ventilation, a head-up display, etc. But most of them did not bother to find out everything more precisely, since this does not even exist in the class. This equipment is available exclusively in the top version of Seltos, which costs almost 2 million rubles, which makes it a competitor to cars such as RAV4, Arkana, Tiguan, CX-5. Therefore, other questions arise here. For example, why does the Kia Seltos only have single-zone climate control? Why does the driver only have an automatic window? Why is the electric trunk not equipped with an electric drive? In fact, this is much more important than those same lane-keeping systems and adaptive cruise control. Moreover, the road infrastructure in the Russian Federation is not so developed for all this to work as it should. The top version of Seltos has a lot of cool toys, but it doesn't really have any useful ones. The strengths of different models are interdependent, since their manifestation arises gradually, moving from one to another. The manifestation of minuses and advantages arises in exactly the same way. One drawback of the Kia Seltos is a consequence of other pathologies. Therefore, they need to be considered from different angles. For some, a minus can become an advantage, and for others, vice versa.